Hi there, and welcome back to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I'm Ryan Bird, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. Roger, just got my notification. Masters less than 2 weeks away, so here we go. What happened to the fall ease into the season? Daffodils are up everywhere. Azaleas are in bloom. We're ready to go here, and I want to kind of start with some college golf as Florida State just picked off a second consecutive win. Luke Clanton, who I know you're familiar with, a really good junior golfer from the state of Florida that went to Florida State, has now won back-to-back events, and this one gets him a spot in next year's Valspar. So interesting hearing him talk about how Dunlap has inspired all these guys that think they're better than Nick to go and just win right away on the PGA Tour. But as I told someone the other day, this is not taking anything away from the Korn Ferry Tour, but the stars of golf, the future of golf, are in college golf, because that's where the stars are coming from. And with that, we welcome in our guest, Garrett Runion, the head coach of the L.S.U women's program. But it doesn't stop there, Garrett. You've been at L.S.U seemingly your whole life. You don't even look that old, but from a player, from a captain to a coach on the men's team to now the head coach of the women's team. I guess I'd love to just hear about that transition, because we don't see it all that often. How was the transition from assistant coach on the men's side to head coach on the ladies' side?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. Glad to be on with you guys, and I've watched a couple of your episodes and everything, and so it's nice to be on here. But yeah, it was a transition for sure. Luckily, it was at my alma mater where it was easy to root for. But going from winning national championships and SEC championships and having guys like Smiley Kaufman and Sam Burns on the team and Curtis Thompson, and then switching over to the ladies was definitely something different. I don't have any sisters. I have like one girl cousin. I didn't know the ladies side very well, and actually had my first daughter 2 weeks before I took the job, and then picked up 10 more ladies. So now I got a lot of girls in my life, and they've helped me with my family, and my ladies back, my girls back home have helped me with the team. So it's been a transition and one that I've really enjoyed.
Well, it sounds like you got your hands full, and handful in both places, home and at the office, if you will. But that's a good thing. Congrats on your young daughter as well for the season. They're starting the season, so that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Garrett, so you've got a powerhouse program. Obviously, a lot of success there that you're coming into. Obviously, you've created a lot of success as well. Our audience is always wondering what it takes to play at a school like L.S.U. I know all the parents here that ask questions. It's how do I get there, right? And you've got the key. So can you give us a little bit of a glimpse into what you're looking for when you recruit a young lady?
Yeah, this question can go in a lot of different directions, and one I used to say is I used to look for a bunch of S words, right? You look at the swing. Obviously, scores are important, size, speed, how smart they are on the golf course. Those are all the things that I look off, and you can tell pretty quickly. A bucket of balls on the range, a few holes on the course, you can tell those things quickly. But I want to know what's under the hood. What drives you? How competitive you are? How tough you are? How low is your high score? Everybody's good is good when it's going good, but are you able to hang on when you bogey the first 3 holes or get popped in the face pretty early? Are you able to fight back and post a meaningful score, especially in team golf? So, size, speed, all those things matter. Speed is an advantage in every sport. I mean, bowling, it's an advantage. So some of those qualities are obviously important, but the biggest thing is what's under the hood. We were fortunate enough to have some of the top elite amateurs in the world on our team. And, Ingrid Lindblad is #1 amateur in the world right now. When we recruited her and when she committed, she was 221 in Wagger. And you could tell pretty much from her swing, like statistically and all that, but it's her drive. She's one of the most consistent players I know from a day in, day out work attribute. Like, she consistently works on her body, stretching, even when she's tired, doesn't want to, long 36 hole day, things like that. She continually puts in the work. And those are all the things that you want to know as much as you can before you offer a scholarship.
It is such a difficult process to find out everything there is about a player and then find out and make the decision in your head whether they're going to fit into your program. The one thing we've learned talking to coaches every week on here is no one would ever admit this, but not every player loves golf. And the difference between those that absolutely love the sport and want it to be part of their life at all times, compared to other players that are really good, but there is a little burnout going on. How, in the recruiting trail with such limited time with an athlete, how do you try to really understand what makes that athlete tick?
That's another good question, and one that we try and look at very hard. I remember, if I go back through some of the recruits that I've had, the recruits that are more concerned with now NIL money, and do we have a videographer that travels with us? Do we have what kind of gear and shoes do we wear? Those are the ones where those are a little bit of red flags. Are you concerned with trying to get on tour and be a tour winner? Because that's what Ingrid and Latana Stone and some of our players, like, they want to be on tour. They don't care if we wear a shirt with a hole in it or whatever. They're more concerned with that. And some people are, their goal is just to get to college. And when they get there, they just want to say they carry the bag. And so asking those questions, seeing what motivates them, what drives them. Sam Byrne, we have a nice equipment room, right? And some guys, they want to get in there and grab all the gear and ask all the questions. I don't know if Sam Burns ever really stepped in there. He's like, hey, I need some golf balls here, whatever. Ingrid's the same way. This stuff is nice, but it doesn't help you necessarily, flying private, things like that. It's very nice, and it helps you, but it doesn't help you make another birdie. And those are more concerned about the lie and loft on their 4-iron. Why am I hitting my 4-iron to the right, or why am I not wedging it as close? So those are the ones you can kind of see, and those are the questions you want to find out before you offer somebody.
Yeah, those are some intangible things. Coach, with that being said, how do you find out about those things? What are some of the things that you do? And without telling any trade secrets, what are some of the things that you do to kind of find out those questions, or those answers, if you will, from those players?
It starts with the conversations with the recruits. It starts with a lot of these players play big international events together, so they know they've done Arnold Palmer Cup's in college, but they've done the Wyndham Cup with the AJGA, and other states have different teams, and they all talk now, and they're with the social media, they know each other a lot more on what they're posting and what they're doing, and it's just really kind of connecting dots, and ultimately you don't know until they get to college how motivated that person is, and ultimately it comes down to your gut. I think if you listen to your gut as a coach, and you can kind of, not always right, but you get a good sense of what their true character and morals are all about. That's, people always ask, what's the one thing I look for? Well, first off is what kind of person you are. I'm going to spend a lot of time with you, sometimes more than my wife and kids, and I want to make sure you're a good person too. Are we going to do the right things, and what kind of cloth are we cut from? I don't care if you're shooting 64 every day. If you're cheating and just doing all the wrong things, that eventually catches up. So high character is number one, and then we kind of work our way down and go from there.
You started your story, Coach, with a little bit about kind of walking into a program that obviously you knew extremely well as a player, as a captain, and then as assistant on the men's team. But moving into the women's game, how much did you know about women's golf? How much did you know about girls junior golf? How much did you know about women's college golf when ultimately you decided to take that plunge?
Not that much, to be honest. I really didn't. I followed it, but I wasn't in the weeds. And luckily, I had my assistant, Alexis Rather, who, ironically, we both she's from Tupelo, Mississippi, She took her official visit to LSU the same weekend I took my official visit to LSU. We didn't really say much. We just kind of, hey, nice to meet you. 2 weeks later, we took another visit to another school, and we just so happened to be at the same official visit the same week. And we didn't like, hey, didn't I just see you? And we didn't say anything. There wasn't social media. I didn't get her phone number or anything to kind of talk about our visits. And then the first week of school at LSU, we both saw each other and we're like, hey, I guess we made the right. They both made the same decision. So she had been here. She had been an assistant here for a long time before. We played on the team together, so I had a lot of trust in her. And I said, hey, these first few events, I don't know all the women's junior events that we need to go to, scheduling for our home event or for our whole schedule. And I said, I want you attached to my hip, and I want you to just tell me everything you kind of know. And I didn't want her to tell me anything with rankings or anything like that. I wanted to watch the girls play, see their swing, see if I was identifying top talent or not, and what was going on. And so she was a tremendous help. But I remember our first trip, I went overseas. We went to England. I think it was like, and big amateur tournament over there. And I walk in, and normally on the men's side, you know other coaches, you know the club manufacturer reps, the national team coaches, all this. You see the parents, you know a lot of people. I walk in and I didn't know a soul, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten into? And it was scary, but put my chin up and my chest out and kind of just walked out, and I said, let's go find it, and let's get this thing going. And it's been a great 6 years, and wouldn't change it for anything.
Well, Coach, you kind of stumbled on it earlier. You mentioned the Palmer Cup. Is obviously congratulations in order for you and Alexis as well, being selected as head coach and assistant coach for the Palmer Cup team.
Yes, thank you. That was a little bit of a surprise, but huge honor. I mean, I'm extremely humbled and honored to do that. Probably more than most people would know. Quick story about me. I was born and raised in Orlando, and I actually grew up out at Bay Hill. My parents have been members out at Bay Hill since '89, wow. And so grew up out there and got to know Mr. Palmer pretty well. And my dad is actually a photographer, and he shoots the Bay Hill Invitational every year, and he's been doing that for several years. And he actually shot the very first Arnold Palmer Cup that was at Bay Hill in 1997, and it was a small team, not near what it's built out to now with the women and everything they do. And I didn't know what it was. I was 12, 13-year-old boy, and I just knew that those were some of the best players, and they were going to be on tour soon, and I wanted to be part of it in some way or form. Unfortunately, my golf game didn't allow me to make the team. I got close as an assistant with all the men to make the team. So to finally make it in as a captain on the women's side is extremely humbling and honored, and I'm very proud.
That's really cool. So that's a great honor, and congratulations on that. You mentioned something a little bit earlier about the rankings. You didn't look at the rankings, which I think is very interesting. And I'm sure when you stepped in, it was purposeful not to look at the rankings, right? However, now with the advent of the WAGR and what's happening in as far as the global game is concerned, how important are the rankings to you as a recruiter of young talent?
The rankings are important, but I probably view them less important as others. It's not the end-all, be-all. I'm a big believer that nothing's improved if you don't track or measure it. So, if you're trying to gain weight or lose weight and you never step on a scale, how do you know if you're going in the right direction? So I look more at the trends, and is the needle slowly getting better? Are they slowly trending? There's people that may not have as big access, and they are putting up good scores, and their fundamentals are good, and they're slowly getting better year after year. Like that, I look for that more so than someone that's withdrawing and protecting their rankings and only playing. Like, I like the kid that, hey, I'm gonna play in my state am. I know it may hurt my rankings, but it's competition. I want to go compete, and I want to try and win my state am. I'll take that player over someone that's too methodical over their scheduling to protect their ranking to get in. Like, it kind of goes back to what's your true motive. If you're trying to develop and improve, I want you playing in as many tournaments as you can, even if that's not helping your ranking. But at the end of the day, the ranking you do have a ranking for a reason and what it is, and it just kind of, it's nice to have on the back burner and look, but for me, it's not the end all be all. I mean, I kind of keep going here, but LaTonna Stone on our team, she's from the Tampa, Florida area. When she signed with L.S.U, she was 786 in WAGR, and that's a late. She's now in the top 20 in WAGR. She was a Curtis Cup player. She was a runner-up in this year's U.S. Women's Am, runner-up in the Augusta National Women's Am a couple years ago. She's leaving in a couple days to go back to the Augusta National Women's Am. So, that's one that just slowly kept improving, and that's more what I look at. So look at the starting point. Is there a trend in the right direction? Is probably how I use the rankings the most.
That's very, very interesting and very telling. And obviously, what you're looking for when you see a player. Will you take a player that you've never seen in person, Coach, or at the end of the day, do you need to see and trust your instincts and see that athlete up close?
For the longest time, I said I'll never sign an athlete without seeing him in person. And as with all the swing videos and the access and all that, and how things are moving fast with the portal and everything, I have taken a player or two without seeing them. But I got to make sure I do as much homework as I can. I did take one player, Anya Donegan, who's on our team, who had a nice run at the U.S. Women's Open this year at Pebble Beach. We didn't see her play in person, but she had played in some tournaments. She knew some of our players on the team, and they kind of vouched for her. And, the ladies I have on the team, they're competitive. So they want good players on their team to help them win. And so I lean on them a little bit more. But yes, in an ideal world, I want to see you in person, and I want to see you play bad. I want to see what it looks like when you play bad. I mean, like I said, everybody's good is good when it's good. What happens when you don't have it? What kind of competitive toughness do you have? And sometimes it's better to see what it looks like when you're missing greens, and it doesn't have a 20-footer every time. How's the short game and stuff. So that's a kind of a not answer, but yes, ideally you'd like to see them play in person as much as possible. I have on a few occasions not seen them play, and we're at a different level than some, so that's kind of where we're at.
Let me just piggyback that real quick, Roger. How do you pick the events, or do you pick the player and go find that player at an event, or are there certain events that you're going to go to that event and see as many players as you can?
There's a few events where I'll go, and I know there'll be some players that I know about and some that I have no clue about, and it'll be a little discovery mission there and trying to find some players and evaluate. But a lot of times I get the names first, and then I kind of see where they're playing and go from there. There's some events. It seems like more events are popping up. That's where my assistant Alexis Rather does a really good job of finding these new events, finding smaller events. We try and go out several years ahead and kind of get some names that way, and then track their progress, and then obviously recruit a little bit more heavily on the ones that are going to be signing in the next year or two and stuff. So it's a little bit of both. It's we'll do anything. Ideally, as a coach, you'd like to recruit in your backyard, have somebody in the home state. Louisiana is not the strongest state compared to a Florida, Texas, California. So we got to go out, and we've gone everywhere from Japan to England, Scotland, California. We go anywhere. We don't care. We just want to try and find the best talent, and a lot of it's word of mouth. Coaches we know, former players, things like that. So I think it's our job to kind of unturn every stone and try and find the best players.
Coach, with that being said, I think that's one of the things that I think our audience wants to hear about too. Golf is a global game. The women's game is a global game. Your roster reflects it. Many of the top program rosters reflect that international flavor, if you will. I think one of the things that really I think a lot of players struggle with, and you said it a little bit earlier, is you want to see players play golf, compete, learn how to win, not manage a schedule so much. But unfortunately, I think Ryan and I have seen this all the time and talk to parents quite often, is in America, it's drastically different than it is elsewhere, right? Elsewhere, it seems that players play golf because they want to play at the best levels or be their best player that they can be. In America, it seems slightly different. It seems like I just want to manipulate my schedule to get to the best college I can get into. And I know that's got to be a struggle for you guys, right? As a college coach recruiting the best players, you do see good players. I'm not saying America's not producing good players, because we have great players, right? So
Right.
the reality is that it is changing. It has shifted. It is a global game, and it's a global game for you guys as college coaches, as a business, to put the best team on the field, if you will, possible. How do you manage that, and how do you deal with some parents who contact you and say, hey, but my kid is ranked 10th in my state, but they don't realize the global game is so different, or so much more competitive?
Yeah, that's a good question there, and it's one where the internationals, they have these development teams and these national teams, and they do an unbelievable job of bringing them up, and that's why I'm very excited about the U.S. development team we've got going now. I think that's going to help a lot of parents. That's going to help a lot of recruits. That's going to do a lot for us. And so if you look at the Sweden national team and Spain and these countries over there, they're ahead of us. They're ahead of us. They're developing the things they're doing. I mean, these kids, some of them are 14, 15 years old, and they're going away from home, and they're in a college, basically running like a college program.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess to answer your question over here, I have a 9-year-old son. He just turned 9, and when I'm building his schedule, I'm going to build kind of 3 layers, and I'm going to do a layer of like a locals tournament where he should go out and hopefully win, finish first or second, not real strong. And then once he kind of gets that taste of winning and everything, then have like more of a regional tournament, a little bit bigger. If he were to play well, should be somewhere in, a top 25, top 20, something like that. Maybe plays really well, gets a top 10. And then I'll have a more national tournament where he's going to go get his head beat in and not play well, basically, and test the condition. Because if you go all the way to the top and play the top and you never finish above half, or never, how do you know how to win? And so, but if you just play at the bottom level and just win all these little tournaments that aren't very strong competition, so it's a healthy mix of all three. Is kind of how I'm going to do it with my 9-year-old. And so he gets the taste of winning and knows how to close out a tournament and win. But then he also knows, like, he plays above his level and sees what competition is out there and what he's got to do better. But if you go and kill the confidence, I mean, your confidence is huge. That's one thing I'm kind of going off on tangents here, but the confidence on our ladies team, that's a big deal. I view it as a bank account. And if you keep depositing positive confidence, that bank account's going to grow. And as long as you don't withdraw too much, you have enough money there in your confidence bank account. And so you want to make sure your balance stays a little steady there, and you're not withdrawing too much by playing in some tournaments way above you, or not getting enough by playing the smaller stuff and building false confidence, I guess.
Yeah, coach, on that, I have a question. I have a developmental center in Ridgefield, Connecticut, the Golf Performance Center. But one of the things that I always struggle with is that a little bit, which is understanding, or helping parents understand, mainly, right, and players, that you just don't jump to the back tees and you don't jump in the highest level of competition. But one of the things I also resonates, as you were just talking, is it's not necessarily about the competition in the developmental stages as it is learning how to play the golf course at the length of level and where your skill level is, to develop the skill level, to continue to move back or progress as the golf course gets longer for you, right? Because at the end of the day, you're playing the golf course, right? You're not playing competition. And I think that's one of the great things about golf, as you see, even when you are out there battling against each other, you're shaking hands and congratulating each other for playing well, right? So that competition really kind of moves, as we get into high school and recruiting level, moves to who am I playing against versus am I actually playing the golf course to play my best golf, which I think the best players in the world do that more often than everyone else. They can care less who's in the field because they're out there to do their best. Is that something you see as well, or maybe does that resonate with you, that it's really about learning how to play the length of the golf course, the toughness of the golf course, and not just the competition?
Well, 100%. It's all about skill development. I mean, I had fortunate to have lunch with Sean Foley at the U.S. Women's Amateur a couple years ago, and he basically said, he goes, nobody cares when you're good when you're 14. You want to be good when you're in your 20s and 30s and on tour and hopefully competing for championships and winning money. Excuse me. And you're kind of asking about the recruits and stuff. And, one thing that is a pet peeve of mine is when I get an email from a recruit and they say, I played in this tournament and I beat this player and they're going to so-and-so school and I beat this player and they're going, I'm like, you're worried about other people. And focus on you and your skill development. We want to, fine tune those skills and keep improving those skills so then you can play anywhere and stuff. So I'm with you, Roger, on that. And it's a fine line. I mean, it's sometimes, I tell my players it's not what you shoot sometimes, it's who you beat when it's at some competitions, but you got to ultimately, it's all about the skill development. There's no draft. We don't have the NFL draft's coming up. We don't have a draft. It's all you. There's no defense in golf. So it's all on you. And if you get your skill and keep improving your skill, then you're obviously going to hopefully go places. And so the main focus got to be the main thing, and that's developing your skill.
Yeah, I love that, Coach. And one of the things that I'm just going to jump on that, Ryan, just a second, because it really resonated. Like Bill Belichick is, when you mentioned the NFL draft, Bill Belichick is one of the best in the business at looking at the individual player's skill sets to then fit on his teams, right? And go do your job. And I think that's where a lot of our audience tends to get off track, is they think it's more important about what team you're on, in this case, what tournament you play in, versus where are your skill sets, right? Do I have the skills to go play on that team or in that event, versus I just want to be there, right? And that's where I think people get lost in golf sometimes. It is about developing the greatest, call it the greatest quiver of skills, so you have them available to you to play at whatever level you end up playing. And hopefully, for most, in your case, you're going to have the best players wanting to play at the highest levels. So that quiver needs to be really full of skill sets.
Yeah, you see recruits that are so worried that their friends have committed to schools already, and they feel like they got to hurry up and commit. And it's like the ones that are confident in their skill, they're looking for the right place to keep improving that skill, because they have a bigger goal than just playing college golf. They want to get on tour, and what's the best place that can help them get on tour. So people develop at different times, and if you just got to stay in your lane and keep working on your craft.
Yeah, Coach, you've talked a lot about confidence, and certainly even you as a player, I'm sure there were times in your junior golf career where you thought you were going to be a major winner and play professional golf. I would at least suspect that. And then there was probably a moment when you realized that wasn't going to happen. Confidence in the mind games in golf, we all understand it. It arguably is the most demanding and difficult mental sport of all sports, just because so little of it is reactionary. So much of it is thought out, planned. How do you handle adversity? How do you handle pressure, etc.? With your athletes, how much time do you spend on their minds and trying to keep their confidence, build their confidence? We all know no matter when you play, you're going to hit a shot that you could have hit better. So how do you work with your athletes on the mental aspects of golf?
Yeah, we have a couple mental people on staff, and some of them utilize it a little bit more. We've worked with some breathing techniques to handle the pressure and things like that to help them give confidence. And I think confidence comes from putting in the work. If you have the technique and you put in the work, when you don't have the confidence, you feel unprepared. So feeling prepared, putting in the work, that helps with the confidence. I talked with Alexis all the time. Like there's times where one of our players maybe messed up and I need to get in their face and I need to kind of give it to them. And there's times where you need to let them slide or something, or not slide, but like it's a fine take of when to push the buttons and not push the buttons to kind of get them going. But it's that's the brain is a powerful supercomputer, and it's amazing what it can do, both positive and negative. And so I always tell them make sure you're talking to yourself, not listening to yourself, because it's so easy to hit a shot and say, gosh, that's so bad. You're such a bad putter, this and that. And I say, look, I don't care if you're walking down the fairway acting like a fool, just saying, I'm going to make this putt. I'm going to make this putt. I'm going to make this putt. And if you keep saying that, your brain won't have time to say anything negative. And you may look like a weirdo walking down the fairway, but if it goes in and you win the tournament, are you going to care? And they're like, well, no. And I said, so sometimes you just got to be a little crazy. But those are some of the weird things we do. But, the confidence is key. And I think it starts with kind of putting in the work. Like you said, Roger, the skill and the development. If you've put in the work and trust it, it usually starts there to give you the confidence.
Coach, before we let you go, I do want to touch on Sam Burns quickly. Was there an aha moment for you where you knew he was different, knew that he was special, or were you a little bit surprised at that he's become a superstar at the highest level?
I've known Sam for several years. I watched him when he was 12 and 13 years old in Louisiana junior golf. And you knew back then he was good. He carried himself like a professional back then, and obviously still does. And when he got to college, he had a great junior career, AJGA Player of the Year and all that stuff. And when he got to college, his first year, he did okay. And I walked with him a lot. And I watched him 3-chip. I watched him 4-chip one time. And, we worked on a few things, but you could tell he was going to be, he was always going to get the tour, he felt like, because the fundamentals were there. The drive was there. He always made sure the main thing was the main thing. I'll tell you a funny, quick story. We were his freshman year at the SEC championship, and I'm walking with him, and bogey's the first hole, bogey's the second hole. Third hole, I think he 3-putts, at Sea Island where they had the RSM, he's nervous and, whatever, wants to win and all this stuff. And I said, all right, Sam, you're going to par this next hole. And when you finally get your first par, you're going to sign this ball and you're going to give it to me. And he's like, okay. He made his first par on the 8th hole of his first 9 holes at the SEC championship. And we laugh about it today. Fast forward, he played great on the back 9. I don't know what he was after the first round, but he ended up finishing, I think, tied for 24th after not making his first par until the 8th hole. So I still have that ball signed. It's in my desk at home, and we kind of joke about that. But then the following year, he finished top 10 in every single college event except one. And so the consistency was there. He drove the ball, stats-wise, everything pointed that he would be a superstar on tour. Now, 5 tour wins, a Ryder Cup, President's Cup, top 10 in the world. It's hard to really, that's just elite air right there. And but yes, he's a great guy, great family, and happy to see his success.
Right.
Well done. Yeah, no, well done, Coach. That's a great story. And you can see that now with all the competition, all the young players we have, men and women, right? You see, how some of these young guns on the PGA Tour actually are hanging together. And obviously, Zach Johnson this past year on the Ryder Cup went all in on it, right? So went all in on, the young players. And you see that now with the women's game, where it's much more camaraderie, it seems, than it has been in some years past in that way, much like the Ryder Cup or European teams kind of coming into these competitions, if you will, that needs that kind of camaraderie. And I think that they're all pushing each other, and I think that's really cool. And Sam is obviously one of those, kind of cogs there that's helping out. So it's really cool to see. It's nice to hear those stories.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and obviously, I think we all probably, Ryan, you're talking about wanting to win majors and be on tour. I think we all think about that, but I think a lot of us golfers also think about wanting to be a quarterback in the NFL or in the NBA, and I think we're all a little maybe too small for that. So the team aspect, we don't get too much team stuff in golf, and I think these younger guys are obviously a lot of fans of the other sports, and they see it. So pushing them and having that camaraderie, and it just can only help hopefully play well and things like that.
I don't know what it is, Ryan, but we all have purple on today, so I don't know.
That.
I'm just kind of looking at that and kind of going, all right, well, maybe subliminally, LSU national championship, go chase it down this year, Coach.
It looks good. It looks good. It's the color of royalty in the Bible, so we like purple.
There you go. Well, Coach, it's winning time, and obviously these next couple months ultimately are going to be exciting, and you're going to have the opportunity to do something great. We really appreciate your time, hearing your stories, getting a little insight on what it means to be a player at LSU, and some of the girls that you ultimately are looking forward to play for the Tigers. So best of luck these next couple months, and hopefully Nationals go real well.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for everything you guys are doing. I've had a lot of people talk about watching you guys and everything, and you're putting out some really great content. So appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Garrett. You bet. Ryan, there you go. I mean, that's one of those top programs that you want to hear a lot from, so our audience can really understand what goes on at that level and what these coaches are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest takeaway from that interview, and not every coach says the same thing, but I did find it. Some coaches we've had on here, they start with the rankings, right? I mean, that is ultimately, and that's fine. That's how they start their process. It was interesting for me to hear him talk about he would much rather see just play as many events. If you're playing a local event and you're the best player and you go on and win, even if it quote unquote hurts your ranking, the fact that you just want to get out there and play, that was really something that stood out to me, because I do think we've gotten away from that in the U.S. of just playing golf. And the other thing is those events that we hear quote unquote, well, we can't play them anymore, they'll hurt our rankings. In another kind of way, those events can be the most fun, because you do go in without the pressure of traveling and hotel and all the different things. And there's a good chance you're going to see, friends that you grew up with, and they may not be as good as you, but I think there's a lot to gain from those experiences as well.
I think it's everything to gain. I think that's, again, back to, if you really listen to the root of the conversation there, he even, Garrett even said, he's going to look at his own son's development that way, yeah. Right? So that's just as kind of evolving a player and learning skills that, as we've talked about, kind of crawl, walk, and run scenarios. And if they can just learn to walk well and then, experience the next level events, that's a great thing for these players. But we're not seeing that as much. It's good to hear a coach's perspective on, yeah. Hey, we want to see kids winning at the local and getting into regional events, and then learning how to get their, kind of, not to make this a bad thing, but their head kind of, knocked around a little bit, and playing at higher level competition, because they're going to need to learn that as well. But I do go back and say, play shorter golf courses to longer golf courses to even longer golf courses to where your skill sets are. And if you do that and you sharpen your skill sets, there will not be a golf course that you can't play and score on, unless you're not hitting it far enough. And I think the way the game is being played now, everyone's hitting it further, right? So I don't think length is the issue. I think much more about where the skill sets are. And hence why you see the best players in the world still, calling on their putting coach, still calling on their short game coach, still, learning golf course strategy. And you really think about that. If you start those things early enough in your developmental phases, you're just continuing to work on those things, not being surprised by something that you weren't aware of. And I don't want to make a shameless plug here, but that's why PDI exists. I mean, it's like you can do your PDI, do a player development, assessment, and then keep working on those things. And I think that's so important for these parents and these players out there to know that.
And listen, I mean, missing 5 greens, I think a lot of people will say that's a pretty good round. I missed 2 fairways, I missed 5 greens, I shot X. Let's say 2 under. And I always remember that the weird thing about golf and the perception is your score at the end is how you perceived how you played. And I've witnessed enough rounds that look exactly the same, but the score is 5 shots different, and it's the difference between I played horrible and I played great. and nothing changed.
Yeah.
Missed the same 5 greens, got up and down all 5 times, walked away with par. Missed 5 greens, didn't get up and down once, shot 77, and I played horrible.
Yeah.
And the only difference was on those 5 missed greens, were you able to get up and down a nod? And we talk about PDI and the ability and track. I also thought Coach was very interesting in, what is your arrow doing? Is your arrow pointing up? Are you getting better, or are you maintaining? You know, everything in life is either growing or dying, right? I mean, the grass outside, it's either growing or it's dying. Like you either have to be moving forward, or you're going to be moving the other direction. There's no real such thing as maintaining. So I think that it was interesting that that's one of the recruiting tools he looks at is, okay, where was this player 3 years ago? Where were they 2 years ago? Where were they 1 year? Okay, now we're going to go recruit them. I want to see they've gone from 75 to 73 to 71 to 69. Okay, this player is working on their weaknesses. This player is working to get better. How do we do that, Roger? PDI tells you how to do that. That's the beauty of PDI, that ultimately is going to become probably the number one metric that ultimately college coaches use to recruit, because it is going to give them actual tangible data and metrics on what a player is doing. It is March into April. April is here by the time this actually will be released. For players outside of California, Texas, and Florida, it really is the start of their season. This is the parents sitting down, deciding where their son or daughter are going to start playing in late April, May into June. One of the great tools on the Hub, Roger, is the ability to find an event, and we just heard Coach talk about it, any event, but something I always think, especially for that first event of the year, let's try to find something close to home where we're not even in a hotel. Let's get back, get our feet wet, especially if we were playing another sport in the winter, which we love. But, find an event close to your house that, even if it's 18 holes, I mean, it doesn't have to be 72 holes or
Right.
whatnot, but juniorgolfhub.com is a great place to start to sit down as a family and put that schedule together.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's what it was created for. I mean, there's over 4,500 tournaments now in the hub. You look on the tournament scheduler, all you got to do is type in location or type in a tournament or a tour, and you're going to find all kinds of tournaments that's going to be available to you, as far as local tournaments and also WAGR events. So professional events, even qualifiers, things like that. So it's a great tool for everyone to be able to use and track and measure what's going on in their tournament calendar, their schedule, even finding schools like L.S.U. and seeing, do I actually fit this mold? Do I, and connecting to those schools. So great tool for parents to manage the summer schedules.
And quickly, I know we're running long here, but we've teased it a couple of times. We're getting very close on the Junior Golf Hub rankings. Probably, if not the next podcast, the pod after that, we will have an official major announcement, correct?
Major announcement. It's on track, Ryan. I mean, the results that we're getting right now look really, really good. We're excited about it. Looks like tax day, April 15th, might be the day. So,
all right, there you go. Don't remind me about taxes. But that's awesome. We certainly thank Coach Runion, the head coach of the ladies program at LSU. Wish him the best in the SEC and on, as they will try to win another national championship. And Roger, congratulations on everything that the Hub has done for the game of junior golf, the game of golf. Really, it is all things junior golf. And once again, our audience continues to grow each and every week. I thought it was funny. Coach Runion talked about he's starting to watch, and I'm starting to hear that more and more, that coaches are watching and listening to hear some of the tools that other coaches, not necessarily stealing their secrets, but they're interested. So there was a need. We're providing that need. We're filling that void. And this is a fun time of year with all the fun golf that is ahead. So stay tuned. We'll be back next week with more the Hub of Junior Golf. For Roger, Nick, our producer, director, Michael, Nick, I'm Ryan Burr saying until next time, so long for the Hub of Junior Golf podcast.